Hello, my name is Melissa Elgersma, Reading Pals Coordinator for United Way of Northeast Florida. This is a sample Reading Pals training for brand new volunteers. As you can see, we have a PowerPoint for this presentation. The presentation also includes video clips, demonstrations, and hands-on opportunities for volunteers to look at Reading Pals materials. I want to show you what we use when we currently use when we set up new volunteer trainings, or what materials we provide to them when we begin. The first thing is their very own copy of the Reading Pals training manual, emphasizing, of course, that this is a manual for the volunteers to keep and they're free to make notes inside the margins. We also include a VEX waiver agreement. VEX is a system we use to receive our background screening results. You may see that this one says Jacksonville Children's Commission. This is an old one, and so we actually will have an updated one with United Way of Northeast Florida, since we are now the certified VEX agency, and that's for the level 2 live scan fingerprint screenings. I also make sure that each volunteer receives a copy of the Reading Pals Coordinator business card, a commemorative Reading Pals sticker, a magnetic Reading Pals bookmark. At the end of training, they receive a map of our current volunteer needs. On the back of this map is their selection and site preferences for the upcoming school year, including time commitment, top 3 site preference choices, whether afternoons or mornings work better for them, and then as well an update of their contact information. In addition to that, I also bring additional materials to training. I make sure I bring a sample attendance log, so volunteers will have a portion of the training where we'll walk through how to complete timesheets. And then the final thing I'll bring is a couple of our Reading Pal bags. Typically I bring 1 bag per volunteer if it's a small group. If it's a larger group, I may bring 1 bag for every 2 volunteers. You don't want to do any less than that though. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I always start with, I had traditionally started going right into the PowerPoint, but since after year 1 we stopped doing information sessions, I've actually added about 10 minutes onto the beginning now, where we do sort of an overview of the Reading Pals program. So you'll see this first slide is one of my favorite quotes from a Neil deGrasse Tyson book. It's from a little boy named Cyrus, and he says, "There are lots of things I have to do to become an astronaut, but first I have to go to kindergarten." And so I like this quote because it really sets the tone for our program right from the beginning, that this is really focused on the kids. They've got big dreams too, and helping them get ready for kindergarten. So, the overview of Reading Pals. Reading Pals is every community partner possible you can imagine at the table, working to make sure more kids in our community are ready for kindergarten. Our statewide sponsor and also partner is the Children's Movement of Florida. We work with Duval County Public Schools, the Early Learning Coalition of Duval, Jacksonville Children's Commission, Jacksonville Public Library, and we are generously funded by Carol and Barney Barnett of Publix Supermarkets. I usually make a joke with one of the bags that anybody want to guess why the bags are green and white? If you're not familiar with Carol and Barney, they are the leadership at Publix Supermarkets, and green and white are their signature colors. So what do Reading Pals do? Reading Pals work with 2 to 3 4-year-olds 30 minutes once a week. We help enhance vocabulary and oral language skills of voluntary or pre-kindergarten or VPK students. Our program runs September to May, and our overall goal is to ensure more kids in our community start kindergarten ready to learn. This slide gives folks a nice overview of what it is that we expect. We found in the first year-end survey people weren't really sure what our goal was, so we make sure that we spell this out clearly. How do Reading Pals do it? There are 3 steps in the Reading Pals visit. The first one is sharing a classic kids book. The second one, engaging kids in conversation. And the third, playing literacy skill building games with them and doing different activities. So far in the first 3 years of Reading Pals, we have placed 426 unique Reading Pal volunteers. And they've been placed at more than 20 early learning centers and participating elementary schools since 2012. To date, we've served more than 1,000 preschool children. They've been matched with Reading Pal volunteers. By the end of this year, year 3, Reading Pals will have provided more than 14,000 hours of reading and distributed more than 10,000 take-home books to encourage reading at home since 2012. Now, what else do Reading Pals do? Our volunteers get involved in a variety of ways. It's not just being a Reading Pal volunteer. Although if you're someone who wants to go, do your session, 30 minutes once a week, and you're all done, that's great, and we're happy to have you. If you're somebody who wants to get involved at a little bit higher level of engagement, we are happy to have you as well. So Reading Pals have been featured in articles in the Florida Times-Union in their volunteer feature. Celebrate Literacy Week Florida was a partnership we did through the Children's Movement with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Florida Department of Health, as well as Florida Blue, using an Iron Man comic book to promote healthy habits like drinking plenty of water, eating fruits and vegetables, and getting exercise. We also do a couple of national reading days. Read for the Record every October. We started doing this in year 3, and I think it may continue on next year. We got a good response. And then also Read Across America Day, which we've done all 3 years of the program, the first year just being a pilot. And then finally, our annual Rally to Tally, our advocacy trip to Tallahassee. That's traditionally organized by women in local leadership and our Director of Public Policy. But our Reading Pals have had such a great experience in the past that we invite them to attend that trip as well. And they're able to share that firsthand experience about working with kids, being in centers, seeing how we do have a lot of kids who are ill-prepared for kindergarten, particularly when we're advocating for issues around increased funding for early learning. So what else do Reading Pals do? This is more kind of in the classroom at the school level kind of stuff. Reading Pals create hands-on learning opportunities, both with our regular curriculum bags and then several of our volunteers engage in other ways. In this picture, for example, one of our volunteers, Vicki, is actually dyeing Easter eggs with her students at her site. They host class celebrations. The first year, the Reading Pals from Episcopal Children's Services Exchange South got together and decided to host the Halloween party. They chaperone field trips. A few of our Total Learning Center volunteers have gone with the kiddos to the pumpkin patch and on other trips. And then they recruit civic groups. The civic groups they're involved with to get involved. Laura Crooks there in the picture was a member of Civitan and got her Civitan group to host, sponsor, provide snacks and books for a Valentine's Day party for the school where she volunteered. Now again, please know that these additional opportunities for engagement are not required. These are completely optional. If you'd like to get more engaged, I'm happy to talk with you about that and listen to your creative ideas as well. So let's get into the bulk of our training for today. Now, of course, I pause and ask if anyone has any questions at this point about the program itself. And I do mention that I will talk about logistics as far as schedules, days, times, locations as we get to the end of our training. So let's get into the meat of things. Now, today we're going to talk about 2 things, but we're really going to focus on our curriculum, our SEEDS curriculum. So we're going to focus on 2 things to talk about working with our kids and using this curriculum. The first one is an overview of the material, and the second part of our training is going to be really focused on how to help kids succeed. How do you do a good job? That's really what we all want. I tell our sites, Reading Pals have 2 things in common. Every volunteer has this in common. They care about kids, and they genuinely want them to succeed. As long as you have that in your heart, the training that we're going to do today is going to help you build those concrete skills that you need. So, what is SEEDS? Now, our curriculum is a short acronym for a very long name. It's Skills-Based Educational Experience Delivery System. There will not be a quiz on this, I promise. So, here's what the curriculum is all about. It's about language and emergent comprehension. Does anybody know what that means? Language and emergent comprehension is basically knowing what the words mean, or understanding the words and what they mean in terms of the scope of the story. So when we talk about reading comprehension with 4-year-olds, we aren't necessarily talking about do this standardized test and tell me what you remember from this story. With 4-year-olds, it's a little bit different. We might say, here's one of our sample books. This is book number 1, Eric Carle From Head to Toe. And it's about animals and body parts. And so as an example, and don't be shy about getting the book out early, usually you want to have book number 1 out if you're conducting the training because this is the one that's referenced in the slides. And it's a pretty easy one to start with, bright, bold pictures, everybody can see everything, limited text, so you're not getting bogged down in stories. Sometimes though, as the summer goes on, to shake it up, I might do a different book. So with a 4-year-old, reading comprehension looks like this. I am a penguin and I turn my head. Can you do it? And then I might say to my students, can you do it? Can you turn your head like that penguin? And you'll notice that I'm modeling what I mean when I say turn your head. I can do it. And then I might go a few more pages. And then I might stop and say, what was the first animal in our book? Who remembers? And so if they're having trouble getting to the answer, I might sort of say, let's take a peek in our book. Let's see if our book will tell us the right answer. What was the first animal in our book? Penguin, that's right. So that's reading comprehension really for a 4-year-old. If it's a more in-depth story, you might ask what happened at the beginning, what happened next, and then what happened last in our story. And that's another way you can gauge their comprehension. So vocabulary development, introducing new words. Letter and sound knowledge, what's the name of that letter and what does it sound like? Phonological awareness is a slightly more challenging phrase for a pretty easy topic. It's hearing the smaller sounds in words. When we talk about syllables, when we talk about rhyming, when we talk about ball, what does ball start with? That's phonological awareness. Or say the word football without the foot. Trying to get to that word ball. So, and then print concepts. This is the front cover. This is the back cover. This is the spine. We read from left to right and top to bottom. That's print concepts, knowing how to handle books. So, it's your first day of Reading Pals. What do you do? Now, it says on here to arrive 15 minutes early. I know that we can't always arrive 15 minutes early, but it is helpful to get there at least a couple of minutes early. Get yourself a chance to get settled. What I usually do is I'll pop into the classroom, give the teacher a little wave, let them know that I'm here, go get the bag, and then come back and get my students. That gives me an opportunity to get settled, but it also gives the teacher and the students the opportunity to wrap up what it is they're doing in that particular moment. So that way the kids are ready to begin as well. Now, you want to review the student's schedule. That really just means, especially in the first couple of weeks, I'm going to take Billy and Susie first for a half an hour, bring them back, and then get Jaden and Daniel, and we're going to do our session then. So that's the way to do it. And please note too, if you're a 1-hour volunteer, which is what most of our volunteers do, they'll do 2 30-minute sessions with 2 different groups of kids back to back each week. So they'll have a total of 4 students for the school year. You do have that flexibility as well to move those student groups around. If you find that Jaden and Jahari work better together than Daniel and Haley, then you're welcome to switch those groups up a little bit as well. If you're finding you have behavior issues or kids competing for attention, that sort of thing. You always want to discuss that with the teacher just so they know what's going on as well. Set up your work area. You don't want to have the kids with you while you're rifling through the big purple or blue Reading Pals bin to get the correct bag out. You want to get that before you start. And then you want to make sure you have all the materials. Now this says gather the materials. What we've done is each week has a bag like this. There's a tag which tells you which bag is inside. Now some of the old tags say week. I always tell everybody ignore that. Just pay attention to the number. The number is really what's critical here, the number in the title. So each week has a bag. Everything you need for that particular lesson is inside. So you don't need to round anything up. Now that being said, of course, based on volunteer feedback, we do have a yellow Reading Pals bag. It looks just like our green and white ones, but it includes extra crayons, paper, chalkboards, so that way you've got some additional hands-on materials to use with your students. I know each year I seem to get very hands-on learners, so we use that bag a lot. So you might want to get that bag and have it next to you when you start. So, and note too that the SEEDS curriculum materials are all online and available for you. If you go to our United Way website, and I'll show you where this is in the training manual a little bit later on, you can go to the United Way website, click on a PDF file of that curriculum, see what the activities are, get a good sense of what the book is about, and then see the vocabulary activity cards as well. So what do you do next? You've arrived a few minutes early, you've got your bag, you're walking, you've got your materials ready to go, then what do? You want to get your kids, you want to make sure that you greet them by name. Now, if it's been a while since you've worked with kids, we have some more unusual names that are coming up, some more creative names. So you want to be sure that you know how to pronounce those correctly. I'll say to the kids, I'm sorry, I'm an old lady, tell me how to say it again, I forgot. And the kids usually kind of have a little chuckle about that. So, but it's important to learn their names and to learn how to say their names correctly. You also want to make sure that you get started right away. You don't want to kind of be dawdling around, how are you, how's your family, how was your weekend, what'd you do? We have 30 minutes. We have a lot to get done in that time frame. So what I will do to start my sessions is I typically don't take things out of the bag before I begin. What I do is I make that part of our exploratory learning when we start. I say, let's take a look and see what's in our bag for this week. And then we'll go inside and we'll take the things out and we'll take a look. So you also want to remember that, and I'm not going to model this for the video, but when you're in training you want to model this. I pull a chair out and I sit down right across the table from two of the volunteers. And I say, when we do Reading Pals, we want to sit down so we're eye level with our students. We're not standing up and reading like this. And we're definitely not reading like this, right? So we'll talk about some techniques when you're reading to the kids, but know that it's important to be eye level with them. Also, one of the great things about being across the table from them is if you have somebody who's a little bit ants in the pants or is losing focus, you can tap them on the hand and say, what do you think is going to happen next in our book? And that can bring the student back to attention. So that can be a helpful behavior management technique for us as well. You also want to engage the kids right away. You don't want to spend a lot of chit-chat time. You want to say, oh, let's open the bag and see what our book's about this week, and immediately get started. Now, you want to hold the book so all the kids can see. Again, it's not, I am a buffalo and I raise my shoulders. Can you do it? I am a monkey and I wave my arms. Can you do it? I can do it. That's not how we're doing this. If the goal of Reading Pals was for you to read 29 books from start to finish, I would give you a bag with the curriculum inside and ask you to email me when you're all done. Our goal is really to engage kids in conversation, to get them excited about reading, to be interactive with them, ask them questions before, during, and after reading. Ask them to guess with you or fill in missing words in the story. For example, I might say when I'm reading this book, and you want to remember, you want to hold the book up so everyone can see. Now, if you're not used to this, it might take a little bit of practice. If you have bifocals, a good tip I've heard is to sit completely to the side. Kind of sit like this, and that seems to work pretty well. So you want to make sure you're holding the book so everyone can see. Now, one thing to note, too, is if you put it on the table, they're going to want to grab at it and touch it. So it's always kind of a better idea to just hold it up like this. I am a giraffe, and I bend my... And I'm asking the kids to fill in the blank. So they'll say, neck. That's right, I am a giraffe and I bend my neck. Can you do it? I can do it. I am a buffalo and I raise my shoulders. Can you do it? Let me see, can you do it? Can you say, I can do it? I can do it, that's right. So see, we're being a little more interactive. What I might do too, when we're done reading the book, when we're asking questions, is I might say, what was your favorite animal in that story? Or where do you think these animals live? Or what was one animal that was new to you in this book that you had never heard of before? And I might flip through the pages. Here in Florida, it's probably going to be this one. I'm from Colorado, so Colorado kids know this. They don't know what this is, but Florida kids do. So you're going to see some kind of area differences as well. Just to note too, in the beginning, you might need to shorten your reading times. The books are gonna, they've been tested for interest to 4-year-olds, so we know that these are popular books with 4-year-olds and that they're high interest. But not every book is for every kid, right? Just like adults, we don't all like to read the exact same kind of books. And so the other thing to keep in mind, especially at the beginning of the school year, when we started mid-September, kids have short attention spans, right? 4-year-olds have a lot of energy, but in short bursts. So you might not make it through a 30-minute session in the beginning. It might take a little while, a couple of weeks to get settled. They might be more like 15 or 20 minutes in the beginning, and that's okay. Just know to expect that it might be a little bit shorter in the beginning, particularly for kids who being read to in this way is new for them. So know that as well. Okay. So what I might do when I start this session, just to model some question asking and introducing the book, in the curriculum card that's going to say tell the students what the book is about, I like to be a little more interactive when we start off and say, what do you think this book is about? Look at the front cover. Now, I'll ask the audience when I'm doing training, what do you think a 4-year-old will say? And some will say gorilla and some will say monkey. And I point out that when I hear someone say monkey, I might say, that's right, it's a kind of monkey. It's a very big monkey called a gorilla. Can you say gorilla? And then I might say a gorilla can thump its chest like this. Whoop, 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 whoop. gorilla. So when you're introducing a new word, you want to say it at least 3 times. So you know I said, that's right, it's a big monkey called a gorilla. Can you say gorilla? That's right, a gorilla thumps its chest like this. So I've said it 3 times, and I've made a sound and a body motion to help them remember. Because 4-year-olds also learn by moving their bodies. So we're making it sort of a kinesthetic learner experience as well. So I'll say, what do you think the book is about? I might say our author and illustrator is Eric Carle. That means he made the words because he's the author, and he drew the pictures because he's the illustrator. Now, author and illustrator are kindergarten concepts, so please feel free to introduce these when you're working with your students. Now, there's a little chant I know. It goes, let's put that down. It goes, the author writes the book. The author writes the book. Hi-ho, librario, the author writes the book. So you can use little rhymes like that too to help your students remember these new vocabulary words, because author and illustrator are new vocabulary words. Now it says here to review the print concept listed on the Steps to Success cards. On the Steps to Success cards, and there are samples in the training manual, behind tab number 3, kind of towards the back here. So volunteers, when you're doing training, you have samples right at the ready here. So you do want to reference the training manual as you're going along. I forgot to say it this time, but in the beginning I also mentioned that the PowerPoint is behind tab number 2, so volunteers can follow along and make their notes as well. So as we mentioned, each week you're going to have the Seeds activity card. If everyone can turn behind tab number 3, sort of towards the middle there. Behind this tab, you do have a complete list of the curriculum. Myself and one of our other experienced reading pals went through this past summer and came up with additional ideas for each book, as well as primary concepts and materials that are included. The additional ideas primarily were for returning reading pals who've done these books at least once or twice, but as a new volunteer, please feel free to take a look and use any ideas that might be interesting to you.